Welcome to the Rogue Asset Podcast with yours truly, your host, Daren Hall, serial entrepreneur, cultural provocateur. Listen, on the Rogue Asset Podcast, we have real people, we tell real stories, we discuss the hustle, the challenges, all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. All right, today we have my man, Rizzo G.U.N.
Hello.
Artist that hails out of Atlanta, GA. My man does a lot of different things. A musically phenomenal entertainer. Has been all over the world performing. Has done quite a bit of things. Just had like a big show in Atlanta a couple weeks ago. So, he's a guy that I've known that's always taken his artistry seriously, and he's been at it a while. And on this show, we focus on cats not necessarily that are huge already, but we like to focus on people that should get their flowers, that's serious about their art and artistry, been doing it a while, and they truly are up next. It's only a matter of time. So, Rizzo G.U.N, welcome to the Rogue Asset Podcast.
Thank you very much.
I know we had a conversation earlier. I know you were telling me, go easy on the gun. It's really G-U-N.
Yes, exactly.
Listen, I'm not mad at you at all.
I don't want any smoke with anybody that could possibly love me. So no, thank you. G-U-N there. That's what it always has been though. G-U-N is the acronym, the motto is get up now. That's something that I've been saying since high school. My friends, that's our crew name. And that's really important for me in my day-to-day. Like procrastination is a mother. And you got to get up now and do it because tomorrow's not promised. The next 5 minutes isn't promised. So just get up now. So that's why it's G-U-N. It's very important to know it's G-U-N.
Okay. Listen, I am feeling that. Like I said, this show, we celebrate positive hustling and hustlers, right?
Yes.
Real people, real stories, people that are trying to do this thing, whatever that thing is, whether it's all entrepreneurship to me, even as an artist. There is such a thing as the creative economy, right? Mm-hmm. Or the creator's economy. So it's all a business. You're an artist, and basically artist meets economy, and that's where the music business comes from. That's where Hollywood comes from, all of that. So, love to welcome you on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay.
Being the debut guest on your pod, I appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. I thought long and hard. I have a list of potentially quite a few people that were being considered. And to be honest, there was so much that I noticed about the Bronny situation, especially in our community, and just some of the criticism that existed with that. Like we were supposed to believe that there was something major wrong with nepotism. Right. And that's the way the world works.
Yeah.
In every business and throughout the music business, by the way. Okay. There's been nepotism.
Right.
I've seen executives whose kids came into the label,
right,
that rose up the ranks or went off, started their own law firms, who were then funneled,
right,
different things. So,
and that's sort of part of the goal as a parent too. I feel like if you have the opportunity to give your child an extra little push, you're gonna do it. That's what you do as a parent.
Yeah, absolutely. And folks, the reason why I brought that to the forefront, and he is the first guest on my podcast, is because he's my son.
Hey.
So let's get that out the way.
Right.
And in my opinion, hey, that was only right. As a community, we need to stop looking at it as it's a no-go or a no-no, because in other communities, it is the way.
Right.
Okay? And it is the first way. But I think that what was funny about the LeBron and Bronny situation is so many people in the culture had so much to say about that, when the owner of the Lakers herself, that was nepotism. Her father, Jeannie, got into business because Dr. Buss, her father, owned the team and gave her a job when she was young And so she has been around it, her and her brothers, right? And that's how Jeannie was in management with the Lakers and eventually became an owner when Dr. Buzz passed away. So
I think it's interesting because people, they get mad about it because they're so used to nepotism being on the other side and getting the short end of the stick. So it's like, well, that's not fair. If we mad about it for this, we gotta be mad about the whole way around. It's like, no, we're working to get to these opportunities that our kids could not have to work so hard to get to these opportunities. So it's like, I get it, but
yeah, you have to put yourself and your family for generations in a position to win.
Right.
Okay, and I use Jeannie there. I can easily switch back to other leagues, the NFL. We could talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. We could talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. I could go on. And in several, not just sports or entertainment, but certainly in all aspects of business, it exists. Whether you're talking about multinational corporations or what have you, that is your responsibility as a parent.
Right.
And it's your fault if you don't have that vision or you're not looking at it or you can't see it.
Short-sighted.
Then you're short-sighted and you need to re-educate yourself. Basically, you need to re-educate yourself.
Lots of work should be done there.
Okay. So enough about that. Kind of want to get into you as an artist.
Okay.
When did you decide that, or you started thinking that this was something that you would like to do? And when you first thought about it, to what degree and at what level did you perceive yourself going?
I feel like it was something that, as an only child for a long time, it was my imaginary friend to perform and entertain. That was how I entertained myself. And it was something that I just felt like it was fun to do, it was natural to do. But then I would want to do it, but then I'd be so scared and want to not go to the audition or not go try out because I was just scared. And I got my first taste of performance for real, like was when I was on step team in high school. And it was like an adrenaline rush that I had to keep like, this feels really good. I feel terrified before I go on, but it feels really good doing this. And once my friends and they were doing a group, and I was like, you know what? Let's just see. You've always liked it. You grew up around it. You grew up around seeing it, You took me to the studios and going to the offices and those things, being up late at night before school in the morning, and we have to wake up for school, but I love going to the studio to hear them loop the same part over and over again. Like, that was really something that I liked. But probably like my early 20s, I was like, this is something I could really like try to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what were some of those like early influences like? Like what artists were you, because, I know for me, and I didn't realize it then, like when it was happening, right? I had to kind of think back as to when the business interest started for me in terms of having an interest in being a business person within the music industry. And I kind of traced that back to growing up in Jamaica. And my dad, would have all these records. Although we were in Jamaica, he was getting all these records from the U.S., right? And he was playing everything. And truthfully, I didn't want to listen. Right, I wanted to watch TV.
Yeah.
Although back in
those, had TV?
We had TV. But the crazy thing is, back then in Jamaica, we only had one channel, JBC. But I still wanted to watch TV.
Jamaican Broadcasting Channel.
Corporation. Yeah. So, so he would do all that, play his music, and so I couldn't watch TV. So while he was doing that, I would be underground with the albums, reading the credits, seeing where all these things were recorded, who mastered it, who produced it, what the labels were, right? And so for you, to go back to you, what was it for you? Like, which artist, what exactly was the catalyst? Yes.
I think, so I didn't know about pop music until like I got to Pleasantdale. And when I got like school with white kids, and I didn't know what pop music was. I just knew R&B. I knew like dancehall, soca, reggae, right? So that was always very much more mature to me. But the pop music was very much like kid friendly and very much like grab your attention and how large scale it was. Growing up in the 2000s and kind of helping, my generation cultivated that whole type of. We were the focus group of that. So I had the TRLs and the 106 in Park and the Direct Effects and Rap City and all those things. Seeing that, like Beyonce And some of the people, I can't say the names because right now they're like, they're in turmoil. So I won't say some of the people's names. But
hey, turmoil or not.
yeah,
right?
like the Bad Boy era was very important. Like Puff was very important to me as an entertainer. He looked like me, and he was, him and Kanye was a person for me too. I remember like going through ninth grade, like that album was a really big thing for me. College Dropout was a really big thing for me. And who would have known that would have happened? But those were like the people. But Beyonce, and shout out to the Spice Girls. They were so huge. They were on movies. They were doing merchandise. It was on endorsement deals. And it was like these stadium concerts. I'm like, that is incredible. That is like, I don't know what the hell they're doing to do this, but I want to do that. And then going to shows. And again, going places with you or going to LaFace offices or the studios, Silent or wherever. It was just like, it wasn't so far removed from me to be like, it was impossible. It was possible to me because I seen it in real life. So that was kind of like those two things, like real life happening and then seeing pop music at the same time was like, oh, I like this.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I know you were in and out of studios a lot. Tell me something. Did you come across Beyonce before Destiny's Child? When it was the Dolls?
My mother did. I didn't know. No, she She knew them through the second album, right? Yeah, I never got to meet them, which is ridiculous.
I think she knows them from when they were the Dolls.
Was it the Dolls? Oh,
yeah, because they were recording at
Silent.
Yeah. I was just curious. I don't know if you had.
I wish.
Cross paths with them then.
I wish. No, never. I met a lot of people, but not them.
Okay.
Well, no, I met Latavia. We got cool years later. Like she was out of Destiny's Child, but we had gotten cool during a certain period of time, like a short period of time. But other than that, I hadn't. And I met LaToya before, but yeah, that was it.
Okay. So, all right. So I get that. So you mentioned the performance aspect of it really enticing you around high school and the step team.
Mm-hmm.
And so did you do anything about that during that period?
Like recording wise or just like performing wise?
Performing wise. What were your next steps at that point?
Well, step team, I was graduating from high school and I stayed cool with the guys on the team, in particular one, Ray. And he had a studio and I'd already been writing songs and like doing like little verses with friends because back then we was on like, Fruity Loops when it first started and the microphone with the sock on it hanging off the wall in the closet, you know what I'm saying? So we'd already been doing like little stuff here and there, but when he had his studio set up, we were like, let's make music. So immediately started making music and figuring out how to really record and those muddled records that I could think about now. But that's kind of quickly after the step team, I started recording music. And I had danced in college. I did like a couple of competitions or exhibitions in college with like a dance group because it was like, this is fun. But that was the start of it, was recording songs in Fruity Loop Studios, the free version of it.
Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of young artists used to try to manipulate the heck out of those Fruity Loops in order to get things going. So were you always on your own? Were you always a solo artist?
No, I was in a group first. It was like a bunch of people in the group first, and I was like, this is too many people. So me being big brother of it was like, yo, we need to minimize this and make it, just pick the people who are serious. So it became 4 of us. And then you managed us for a minute, and we performed around the city and had our first song on iTunes. And so I started off in a group first, though. A 4-person group. It became a 3-person group.
Okay. And how would you rate that experience of being in a group, right, versus being on your own?
So there's pros and cons to both of them. I think being in a group, you got to compromise, right? So it's never just your vision, but you're not alone. You know what I mean? Like you are, if you're going on stage, you feel those nerves, you're in it together. It's like a team, So that's the fun part. And recording together was fun too. But you have moments where you go, well, I don't like that song. We should use that song. Or I don't like this look, or that's not. And, personalities can kind of click, can kind of clash sometimes. But I work on my own speed. I like to work. I'm a workhorse. So that was something that was difficult for me because I work I'll go hard and people are like, I'm not doing all that. So that was like a tough thing for me. But the cool part was being with your friends and, you know, recording and performing and going to these meetings with people and being disappointed together or being excited together was like that team camaraderie. The camaraderie was the best part of being in a group for sure. Okay.
Yeah, because, you know, I always wonder, most of my success were always with solo artists. I did manage groups from time to time, but sometimes there are differences. Like, you know, I love hearing, like Nori, for example, always talks about his experience in CNN and just the personality differences, right. You know, in terms of how serious he was about his career, right. And how he's just obsessed about being on time. And his partner wasn't necessarily that way. Right. And so, you know, that created some conflict, right. Just in terms of goal and intention. Right. At times, you know, can be different because I think the thing is, speaking from it on a business side, I think a lot of times you're kind of able to differentiate and see the different drive and discipline of the group members. Yeah. And I think to kind of have a successful group project, it's almost like pistons firing in the engine, right? You need them to be calibrated a certain way. Right. And when that calibration isn't there, it's kind of hard to make that adjustment in order to get it to where it needs to be. Right. To function. I mean, I have seen groups, duos that were magnificently talented still have the opportunity, great opportunity, to do stupendous things, and weren't able to do it because the discipline or one of both weren't there. They can't be anywhere on time. Right. And, you know, I mean, one group comes to mind. I'm not going to name them. But, you know, I mean, when you're like 4 or 6 hours late. That's crazy. You know, to an interview, you're not really going anywhere fast, right? No, it's disrespectful. Yeah, and so your reputation becomes tarnished, and you know, people give up on you pretty easily, whether it's radio, press, whoever. They just do. So now, as a solo artist, Rizzo, get up now. Rizzo G.U.N. I'm just pulling your leg. But as far as tell me a little bit about your sound. It's Caribbean pop music. Well, before you tell me about your sound, all right. Where are you from, man? Well, it's a very interesting, complicated story. I am originally from Brooklyn, New York, Flatbush. Big up Flatbush. And from the south. There we go. Big up to Flatbush. And then Flatbush. Yes, and then we and also the south side of Atlanta, Clayco. You know Clayco. You know what I mean? Clayco. Big up to Clayco. And I am first generation American. So my parents, all 3 of them, genetically Guyanese, Trinidadian, and raised Jamaican. So all of that has inspired my music, and I make Caribbean pop music. It's all like worldly vibes. There's always a kind of how I say it is that I mix East Coast attitude with Southern melodies with Caribbean grooves, and it's some of it's trap soca, I say, but it's Caribbean pop music. And we use dancehall, reggae, soca, Afrobeats, dembo, Dominican music. You know, like all of that. We use all that in the music because that's what I listen to. That's what kind of moves my body. That's what makes me dance. That's what kind of inspires the feel. I want people to feel like they're on vacation. I want people to feel sexy. I want girls to want to dance. I want guys to feel confident enough to go and have a moment with a girl and, you know, or whoever you like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want you to feel just sexy and confident and feel good and high vibrational because there's so much music that's very low vibrational, and I try to counteract that with the music that I make. But Caribbean pop music as a whole, for sure, because it's pop music, but my culture always shines through, whether it be in the language that I use in lyrics or just references of melodies or older songs. Okay. Now, I think I did come across something with you in the press before. It was referred to as trap soca. Yes. Was that a phrase that you coined? Yes, absolutely. Trap soca is the energy, it's the vibe. It's the, you know, some of the records, I say they have a trap soca vibe, which kind of
encompasses what Rizzo G.U.N does. Like certain songs you hear, you go, oh, this is like my kind of vibe. I call that trap soca. And again, it just goes with the whole, the Southern aspect and the Caribbean aspect. But the trap is not even just Southern. It's just kind of like that city, urban grittiness of it, of New York and Atlanta. And the soca is just the Caribbean spirit. And every year I have an event called Trap Soca. This past year I had Trap Soca Vibes, the 4th year. And it's just the energy. Trap soca is really an energy. It's a vibe, it's a feeling.
I got kind of confused at one point, because I started thinking trap, the trap house, and I'm like, I don't know if I'll be listening to soca in the trap house. I kind of got confused there, right? Mm-hmm. If I'm in so anyway. But it makes you,
but the thing is, I think the title, the phrase trap soca is like a picture Arab. Like, what does that mean exactly? What is that? If you know what soca is, then you're already you're intrigued. You're like, what does it mean? So, and I'm open to have the conversation with it because that's the point of it all.
Absolutely. Yeah. It definitely was something that got your attention, that made you curious, and you definitely kind of wanted to see or hear exactly what that's about.
Right.
So, okay, cool. So, I know that you have been, if you're doing that, that's kind of like world music, right?
Absolutely.
World music. That appeals to a wide range of people across the globe. Mm-hmm. And I know for a fact, inside knowledge, that very early on, you have had the opportunity to travel the globe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have been, I think you have been to more countries than me. I believe that I have. I think you have. I think you may have a couple.
I'm gonna have a couple on you. Yeah.
Expound a little bit. How did this influence you as an artist?
Oh my God.
Because we both know, right? Mm-hmm. We both know that going and experiencing so many cultures, sounds, or whatever, you see the world through a different lens. Absolutely. Right?
Absolutely.
And even to a point that sometimes communicating with people that have not.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Is can be a little frustrating.
Right.
If you're not patient. So how did that, what kind of effect did your travels have on your music?
A huge effect. Just being able to hear other music in other countries and hearing, I think one of the biggest things with me was hearing hip hop all over the world, and not just like American hip hop, but like Italian hip hop and like, Japanese hip hop and like, or hip hop in Japanese or hip hop in Italian, and even in other English speaking countries, but their accent is so strong. You're like Scottish hip hop rappers, and it's so different. It has the same spirit of what we do in America, but it's very different. And then obviously hearing, going to the Middle East and hearing like Arabic songs, and thinking about when I do songs or I'm singing arrangements with using the Arabic scales on my little bit of knowledge that I have of it, and all of that inspires it. And also it makes you go, keep doing what you're doing, because your sound is not just confined to where you live. I've, been on Germany Apple Pop playlist, you know what I'm saying, for features that I did, and the music works not just in your country, and it's okay. It's like it's all right, like you got this. And I've been able to go to other countries or another country and perform and multiple times, and having opportunities in other countries has been one of the things that I'm proud of the most, being able to go international with it.
Yeah, I think that's very important. I think a lot of times, and you heard me kind of refer to this earlier as a creator economy. And I think a lot of times within the creator economy, artists in the United States seem to only think of the United States as a market. When music is a global market.
Right.
Okay? And I certainly know what you mean when you say hip-hop is global right now, okay? Hip-hop is completely global in its performance, even in its commercial use to sell products,
right,
in various countries. It's global. So when you kind of look at it from that aspect of it, there's plenty of opportunity there, and I think anyone in the creator economy should be looking outside the United States and looking globally.
Absolutely.
And hip hop has translated. I think one of the things coming up for me when I was a young man was, during the Shabba Ranks era, was seeing footage of Shabba in Japan, and they could sing every lyric, and they knew every dance, right? And it's
They
been
appreciate it.
Yeah, they appreciate
They
it.
appreciate it a lot more.
Yeah, I would say a lot more. So that brings me to, let's kind of talk about right here in Brooklyn. We know hip hop started in New York by a Jamaican. Although they've been contesting that lately. But did you, I mean, as a citizen of both places in your lifetime, New York and Atlanta, did you have that awareness that at some point Atlanta would wrestle that crown away from New York?
No,
the way it has?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think anybody saw that. I think I'm lucky in the sense of being from New York and Atlanta, in the sense of like, those are the two,
Absolutely.
Those are the two places. And people in other countries, like I know, and they go, "You're from Atlanta? Like that's the mecca of hip hop." I'm like, "How old are you?" Because it's like, what? But in some people's, timeline of their life, this is where this is where it's at. You know what I'm saying? It has been at. I didn't see it because people was, New Yorkers are very, New Yorkers are not pushovers. There was a fight about it, but then once New Yorkers started doing Atlanta style, it was just like, and they couldn't get along, and it was just like, that all that infighting and down here is a lot different. Like people might beef, but they'll work together. They'll still, whatever the case may be. At least back then, for sure. So I don't think anybody expected it. It was like the perfect storm, though. I feel like it was the perfect storm between 50 Cent kind of like causing commotion in New York and everybody going at it, and TV and the internet. And just people in the South making hits and having people like it not just be local but being spread out. Yeah, and you have like those milestone artists like Outkast who go, "We're from Atlanta and the South has something to say," and it's a big thing and some of the biggest records of all time and highest selling records of of hip hop history. Like it don't hurt to have people from the city to represent that.
Yeah, I having done business both places, New York and Atlanta, I know very kind of what I saw that was a lot different from a business standpoint, probably late 90s, was that there was more of a, like you said, there was a lot more of a camaraderie, right? And there was a certain level of pride. And that pride extended to that down south work ethic. What I mean by that, certain artists in New York, when they were starting, is like they wanted to start at a certain point, right? Whereas here in Atlanta, folks just made records. And I was around Lil Jon during that time, and him just recording, doing his A&R gig, but then he would be gone doing his artist thing, on the weekends, all over the South, like grinding.
Yeah.
And so I saw a certain degree of humility, within the creative community, and I saw a certain level of camaraderie within that community, and it existed not only with creatives but also on the business side as well, amongst executives, and they were very tight knit community. They were slow to trust outsiders as well.
Like, wait a minute.
You know what I mean? Yeah, they kept their stuff tight, because I remember there was an artist that I was referred to by Regina Davenport, and I remember having a great conversation with that artist, and we were supposed to have a follow-up meeting or something of that nature, and then I was working with somebody else that knew that person, and he was like, "Nah, man, he's not. Don't even waste your time with that, because he's talking about, you don't want to deal with any slick New York Negroes."
Oh, God.
So
the representation that New Yorkers gave
to
exactly. that the children of New Yorkers who had to move down here because their children had no choice in where they were moving to, the things we had to deal with in school because what the reputation that you guys had is ridiculous.
Well, I was a different type of New Yorker, so I can't even speak to that. You know what I mean? My hustle was a hustle to get ahead, but it was never about beating anybody. I always tell people if I was that kind of guy, I would be a lot richer than I am right now. But I don't think that there's an artist that or a producer or anybody that I've ever managed that can say, "Hey, you know what I mean? That man ripped me off," right. Or took my publishing or anything like that.
Right.
That's just not the way I did business. Right. So let's get back to you, man. So we're talking about like 3 different cultures in your music, a lot of traveling the world. So your studio sessions got to be crazy. You know what I mean? Creatively, in terms of I mean, just the ideas that you get, you know, some of the stuff that you're on. So creatively, how does that come together? Are you working with like multiple producers, or is your approach more working like one producer? You know, like how they used to put rock albums together.
Right,
back?
definitely one producer. I've worked with other producers in the beginning of my career, but I'm lucky. I got when I met Genius. Genius is a genius. I have ideas, and he'll be like, let's just make it. I'll pick an obscure reference, and then we'll find the coolest part and loop it, or you know, he'll say, listen to this, or I got this, and sometimes we're on the same page sonically, and sometimes we're not. Then I'll mess with that, or I'll be, what about this? And go, but we'll still try it. It's really just about like let's just make the music, and then we'll pick at it and, you know, reference it or pick this part or clean this part up, or, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of how we do it. There's no restriction. Whatever I want to make, I can make. Whatever I want to, like, let's do this, we can do it. I'm so comfortable there. It's like my second home. So Genius would just sit there and I'm like, man, you ever heard so-and-so? I want to make a song about this movie, and we'll find a clip online, and we'll find a piece of the clip online, and let's go, that part is cool, and then we'll just make the track. I'm like, what about this? With this kind of bass line? And he'd go, all right. And then it's just the two of us. I might have people come in sometimes, but I don't like a bunch of people in my session like that. I'm not the rapper like that. Like, I don't want a bunch of people in my session. I have like a few people come through sometimes, depending on the scenario, but I don't want a bunch of people in my session, and especially not a bunch of new people. Like, you got to be like in the circle for real to be up in my session. I get shy still, so I don't want to I don't need you around me. And it reminds me of a story one time when I was younger. Well, we were younger, and an artist had a session. There was like a writing camp. It was Billy.
Okay, yeah, I remember that.
And I remember we were in the room, and I was a kid, and he was like, all right, everybody who's not working got to leave the session, like the studio in the room. I was like, and it was like, that's the first time I ever learned you have to respect the artists, what they need to do in their moment at that time. Like, you have to respect that creative space. You know, of course, you're like, I'm not going to do anything, but it's like, it doesn't matter. And in my life now, I've recognized, like, I don't want a bunch of people in my session. I don't want it. Sometimes certain songs call for a vibe. You might have a few people like pull up real quick. Let me just come through and catch that little vibe. But it's usually just him and I on some, like, you know, name a duo, you know, DMX and Swiss Beats, Drake and Noah, Drake and 40, you know, Janet and Jimmy Jam, you know, Michael and Quincy. Like, we have that. That's our thing. And I'm really grateful to have that person to kind of create with. It's fun because I didn't meet him, and I met him with my brain. He had his own mind, and we kind of just create together.
I love that because, you know, listen, in my opinion, I've always felt creatively, music has no destination, right? You go in there, and it's energy captured between, you know, the creators. You know, it's kind of whatever. And, you know, in my experience, just having been around legends, production-wise, I remember once I witnessed, you know, Teddy Riley create a snare he got like a wrench and hit like a rim. It's kind of like, and I was like, whoa, right?
Gotta get that sound right.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard stories of you know, rock groups. I think it was like Pink Floyd that was recording something one time, and they just they weren't getting it in the studio. My man was just like, let's record it outside. And he went outside and was like, started like looking at the moon. And
I got you. Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah, you know what I mean? You know, Teddy again. I've seen Teddy add just the most simplistic things to records, and they became hits. Yeah. You know, a lot of times people challenge whether they've challenged through the years whether Puff was a producer, but I've also seen him do things in different scenarios that it changed what was going on. Right. And it made the record a hit versus what was there before. So, you know, creatively, I feel like creators should have the license to do whatever they want to do. Yeah. I know sometimes, unfortunately, a lot of people try to be so formulaic that, you know, they're almost like a horse with blinders on. They don't really kind of let themselves
There's no
go.
freedom, yeah.
Right. So it's you know, which I'm not going to knock that neither. I mean, listen, I've seen... and I'm not going to call any names. I've seen some pop producers make a whole lot of money by sitting down, analyzing records that were made before, figuring out the formula, and piecing it together. You know, so
Whatever works, right?
Yeah, whatever works. As long as and the creators are happy.
Yeah.
With the end result. I love the fact that you have found a good match creatively.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me, man, we've talked about all of that, but who are some of your favorite artists?
Some of my favorite artists outside of myself.
Listen, man, there's nothing wrong with favoring yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
If you don't, who else is going to
Exactly. It starts with me.
Right.
So outside of Rizzo G.U.N and Valley V, rap out of the Bronx, I would have to say I like this artist named Sadiqa Ivy out of the Bronx. She's a really talented songwriter. I like Victoria Monet. She's super fire. I like K Tronada. He's super fire. I like Anderson .Paak. Super talented. I'm listening to Cash Cobain. I'm listening to, what else am I listening? I'm listening to Future's new album. I'm listening to a lot of oldies because I also like have to learn old songs. So I'm like revisiting old songs that I know how they go, but I don't know the words. Like I know how it goes, but I don't know the words to the song. So it's like I'm relearning songs. I'm learning older standard songs, which also has been helpful for me to like learn my vocal range. So I'm listening to Frank Sinatra. I'm listening to Elvis, and I'm listening to Stevie Wonder, and I'm listening to Casey and the Sunshine Band. I'm listening to all these like songs that I'm familiar with, but learning them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And Three Little Birds by Bob. A lot of times.
All right, so we're gonna change gears for a minute.
Okay.
Put you on the spot.
Oh shit. Okay.
All right. Drake or Kendrick? Who won?
Kendrick won that.
Kendrick won that.
He won that. Yeah.
Okay. Was it a unanimous split knockout? What was it?
I think it was pretty like I can't say unanimous, but it was obvious because Drake
Obvious
is Drake.
Is unanimous, my man.
No, because Drake is Drake, right? So of course you'll have people who are like, die hard fans of people who just don't see it, and he has enough fans of people to say, but.
Well, listen, I don't care if you see it or not.
But no, Kendrick won that for sure.
Trump didn't see that he lost the last election either.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't.
All right,
yeah.
so
no, definitely Drake is Drake, but Drake didn't win that one. No.